Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of the Main Event Comedy Podcast. I'm Gene Jackson, and of course, as always, we are joined by the one and only Wes Sears and our new permanent co host with the most. Yes, he's here. It's the one and only. It's Tyler Fitzgerald.
Let's
Tyler, how we doing?
go.
What's going on, y'all?
Not much. Excited for another episode, man.
That's right. It's been another interesting week in wrestling. We'll start getting to that here in just a moment. First, though, I do want to say thanks to everybody that's been watching the show here on Facebook, on the different Facebooks that we stream it to. Also, to everybody who's checking out the audio version over on Apple, Spotify carries the video and the audio version. So, been getting quite a few views and downloads, and so there's a lot of people checking out the show. We've had people joining us in the comments the last couple of weeks. Adding in their opinions on the topics. So pretty excited about that, man. That's cool that we're getting some engagement and that people are seemingly liking what we're doing. And speaking of excitement, we have a special surprise fourth horseman tonight, member of the Main Event Comedy Podcast. We hadn't seen in a while, but it's a special St. Patty's Day treat as we are joined by none other than Mr. Shane Knowles.
Let's go.
Look at there.
Top of the evening to you, gentlemen.
Let's go, dude.
Hello. And he is bringing the St. Patrick's Day heat. Look at him.
Like the Leprechaun shirt. Who all seen the Leprechaun?
I have not. I haven't been out much. I figured there had to be a couple out during the pub crawl last night that went on in downtown Gadsden.
There we go.
Our friends at Atomic Johnny's was taking part. Our friend Keenan Worthington, that's going to be joining us this coming Saturday night, was out handing out flyers to this show right here.
Oh, nice.
This coming Saturday night, March 23rd, we're going to be right back at Atomic Johnny's in Gadsden, our favorite place to be, and we're coming back Saturday night, and we're not coming alone. You're going to see all your Main Event Comedy favorites along with Mr. Chase Moat, Keenan Worthington, and the one and only David Lynham. So it's going to be a fun show. We're super excited about that. Make sure you get there kind of early because each show we've gotten more and more attendance, and we were just about getting to capacity last time, and I have a strong feeling we may surpass that. We may have to turn some people away this time, which is, we don't want to have to do that, but get there early. That's what I'm saying. So what's up, Shane?
Well, I have no doubt we may reach capacity with one David Lynham in the area. I mean, performing
Exactly.
many a rock concert there for, right at 2 decades. And now branching out and doing comedy. You and I talked about a lot of people from Gadsden talking about, wanting to make the trip.
Absolutely. David's been tagging people and sharing that, and he's a rock legend in these parts of Alabama. And we kind of mentioned this last week, but David jumped into the comedy world with both feet several months ago. And if you know David Lynham, he doesn't do anything half-assed. So the guy goes from getting his start in comedy. The next thing you know, he's running 2 open mics in Birmingham. He's running mics in Florida. He's running a mic in Montgomery now. Like, he's got mics going like 4 or 5 nights a week. Plus, he's putting on shows. So he's coming in hot as to be expected. So we're excited to have him joining us this coming Saturday night. But we're also excited to we're going to talk a little wrestling because that's mostly what we do here on the Main Event Comedy Podcast. I don't know, figure that one out. But since we got Shane Knowles with us, we may actually get around to talking on a couple of comedy topics that we've got to speak on. But right now, let's get started on some wrestling. We kind of run through usually the topics of the week, and then we usually have a couple of specific topics we're going to talk about. But I guess one of the first things I want to bring up, the much anticipated debut of Okada happened on AEW a couple of weeks ago, and he came in and immediately turned heel and joined up with Matthew and Nicholas. I don't know if they're still the Young Bucks now. I don't know. They're the EVPs nonetheless. We can just kind of go around the horn here. What's everybody's thoughts on that? Do you think that's a good move for Okada to come in and immediately join up with the Bucks and turn heel, or should we ease into that, or is Okada a big difference maker for American fans?
I mean, I don't think it's the wrong answer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he can either be heel or face coming in. And I think they're introducing him, with the Bucks, the Trucks, whoever you want to call them. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good move. I really do. I mean, because I think in the long run, you could turn him into like a straight babyface, with Matthew and him, betraying him or him vice versa. I mean, there's so much you could do. So, I mean, I don't think there's a wrong answer on his, introduction to AEW. So,
and I do think it moves the needle with. Actually, I do think it moves the needle with American fans. I'm not so familiar with like a bunch of New Japan, Japanese wrestlers, but I feel like if you watch wrestling, you've heard of Okada. It's kind of like when Nakamura came to WWE. Like you have those handful of guys that get talked about on social media, and you see the clips, you see the cool matches that they've had. So yeah, I mean, I think he's probably the most impactful person I can see from AEW signing from Japan that would actually resonate with a large portion of the American audience. So yeah, I mean it's cool, and they seem to be throwing him in with the Bucks, which is good. I find that AEW signs some guys and they get lost in the shuffle, but I mean if they're in a program with the Bucks, or if he's in a program with the Bucks, I mean chances are he won't get lost in the shuffle there. So I mean it'll be interesting. It might cause me to tune into a few Dynamites and see what they're going to do there.
Shane, where are you at on it?
To Tyler's point, Okada's, I think, that one name from Japanese wrestling that even if you're not familiar with the rest of rosters, he's almost like that mystique of a name that you've heard of. And certainly he came over and did the Forbidden Door. I guess just to take the other side here, because it is how I feel, they're missing on some babyface guys. Sting just retired. MJF is out. Golden opportunity to usher Okada right in here as a new babyface. And we put him with Matt and Nick Jackson. I mean, yes, to the point both Wes and Tyler said, it's going to be a prominent position, but I also don't know how his promos are in the English language. It is 2024. Do we have to make everyone from the Orient, a foreigner, a heel right off the bat? And I'm just afraid that his ring work is so damn good that it's not going to be long before people are like, why are we booing this guy? Or why are we being conditioned to do so?
Yeah, and that's something I think AEW has been sorely lacking is a big time, big name babyface that really stands out from the pack. I mean, and I think that was kind of my thought is maybe that's what Okada was going to come in and be. He's a worldwide superstar. Let's see if we can, get the fans behind him and make him a babyface because, who is the face of AEW as a babyface with Sting out of the picture? And the other thing is a lot of the times you don't really know what the hell people are supposed to be in AEW. I don't watch enough of it now to really say, like, they switch people, Adam Page, how he's perceived changes back and forth. And, I was told, I think Swerve turned babyface after his recent match with Joe, I think. And so, yeah, I kind of with you on that, Knowles, is if not Okada, we've got to get somebody to be the big time babyface in AEW. Is I don't see anybody standing out as that right now. But then again, I'm not watching enough to really have an opinion.
And that was a confusing thing. I'm glad to hear Swerve switch because he and Joe as two heels up at the top with kind of Adam Page also working heel with Sting retiring and MJF injured. I was like, where is any babyface near the top tier here?
Yeah, I agree. So I guess staying on AEW for a moment, and I'll see Wes. I'm slipping again. See, we have graphics here that producer Smokey put together, and we're not
Ooh.
putting them up. So let's go down here. There's boom, there he is.
Yeah,
Okada is all
you're
elite.
not officially all elite till you get the graphic.
That's exactly right. And then
Mhm.
sometimes people randomly get the graphic and it's unofficial, and then other people see it and think it's official. But nonetheless, so we've had a couple of big debuts lately. We had Okada a couple of weeks ago, and then this past Wednesday night, we had the debut of Mercedes Monet, aka Sasha Banks. She makes her grand debut in AEW, and we kind of touched on this a couple of weeks ago, but you know, is she as big a star as they want us to think she is? Is she as big a star as the money implies she is? If there's any truth to what they're saying, Tony Khan is paying her to come to AEW.
What's the numbers you've heard on that?
I mean, I've heard like $10 million a year. Like, there's no way she can bring them that much money herself. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I've just seen it in two or three different places that supposedly she got 10 mil a year to come there.
Well, even
And
half that, if we believe it.
yeah,
5 million? I mean,
I mean,
hmm.
you see those arenas, what they're looking like most places. I don't know, man. That's and I don't know. Like, I couldn't find a picture for a screenshot here. But I mean, I seen part of the promo, and I seen pictures the other night where, like, what's the deal with her hair now? It looks like somebody graffitied the back of her head, like somebody had spray painted CEO of AEW or some nonsense on her head. Like, it looks so low rent and just like trashy looking. Like, what the hell is this? But we'll go around. I guess we'll make that the loop now. We'll go to West, to Tyler, and then to Shane. What are you guys' thoughts on Mercedes Banks, or Sasha Monet, or whatever you want to call her, coming to AEW? Is it a big deal? Is it going to move the needle?
I mean, she had an interview. I mean, like a week or so ago, and was basically saying like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be in AEW for a little bit, but I'm gonna come back to WWE." Like literally, like word for word, basically said that. I don't think AEW is the move, in my opinion. I think she'll have a couple matches. She might be there maybe 2 years, and then she'll be back in WWE. I mean, I don't see it being this pinpoint of being better. I mean, they had Jade drop the ball, in my opinion. Um, I think they're going to do the exact same thing, and we'll see Sasha Banks back in WWE once again. So
Um, I think I don't know that it's necessarily going to move the needle, and it's not so much a knock on Sasha Banks. It's more so a knock on how AEW uses their signings, uses especially the women's division as a whole. Um, I feel like it's not utilized nowhere near as good as WWE uses them. I mean, WWE's thrown women in the main event of WrestleMania. I mean, we've seen stuff like that. I don't know that the women have been spotlighted on AEW as much as like they probably should. I think like the most recent example I remember is like Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa. They had that like insane, crazy, bloody match, all of that. But Sasha's a well-known star, but at the same time, they signed Paige. I thought that was going to be like something huge too. Like Paige is going to return to the ring, be able to wrestle again. I mean, Paige was arguably a bigger star than Sasha Banks was back in her prime. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how she's used, but I'm not sold fully yet until I see what they're about to do with her.
I have a question for Tyler before I address this because you brought up something that I wholeheartedly agree with, and I'll just put you on the spot. By the time we get to what is it, all out, all in, whichever one's going to be in Wembley, will Okada still mean what he means right this second, or do you think he gets lost in the shuffle like name a dozen guys that already have?
I think Okada remains in the shuffle just for the sole fact that he's being thrown in with the Bucks right off the bat. Like they seem to have at least somewhat of a plan on what to do with him.
Mhm.
Like I've found that a lot of times when AEW signs these guys, it's like, oh wow, Matt Hardy shows up on AEW, but like you don't see him for a few weeks after that. Oh wow, like name any Malachi Black, like that dude is so good, and what's he doing nowadays? Like I don't, so the fact that he's already been thrown into a program with, the EVPs, they're probably not going to be, make themselves be lost in the shuffle. So I would hope to think
Eh,
they have
I
a
don't
plan.
know. They've spent a lot of time lost in the shuffle the last 2 or 3 years,
Right.
I hope
and
not.
they
Uh,
they they fade away into obscurity from time to time. So I don't know.
Yeah.
for Mercedes, has too much time passed for her to be relevant? If she had left WWE and did this within 6 months, because she certainly had her time to come to AEW if she wanted to. Not that she can't be rebuilt, but she's not using the name that most people would associate with her, unlike a CM Punk that was gone for a while. That name still comes back. It didn't come back as Phil Dugan, or something. So I don't know. But I agree with Wes's point to this. I don't know if WWE is the move for her, but I don't know if it's going to be long for her either way because of you know, the level of AEW women on the roster. She can't work a Bailey and a Charlotte and a Rhea and a any number of people. I'm just saying, like the plethora of top tier, which in ring she has shown she can be that. The level of top tier in AEW is not long in the tooth for one Mercedes.
I mean, my big issue with AEW is they can't follow through with anybody. Like they did a good job of building up Britt Baker as being their top woman wrestler. Where's she at now? Well, she's just
Right.
kind of faded off into obscurity. I don't know if she's injured or she's just pulling teeth or whatever it is she's doing. But all they build momentum behind people and they completely lose it. Like my favorite thing to point to is Wardlow. They built Wardlow so well coming out of that MJF turn. And then they did nothing with him. He just wallowed in obscurity until just recently. They woke up one day like, oh, yeah, we got Wardlow. I guess we can do something with him, throw him in that Adam Cole deal over there. It's like they do not follow through with any little bit of momentum they ever get behind somebody. They squander it. It goes nowhere. And so I feel like even if they do start gaining any kind of momentum with Mercedes, it's not going to last. Just like the Page thing. And I was glad Tyler said that because that is exactly what I had the back of my mind was on a woman's and the woman's side of things. The closest thing you can compare to a CM Punk would have been Paige. The fact that she had been retired, you never thought you'd see her again. If you did, you thought she'd be a manager or just some kind of GM role, something like that. You never thought she'd actually be back in the ring. And then all of a sudden, AEW has brought Paige, who gets credited with being the spark of the women's revolution in WWE and all this great stuff, and it's gone nowhere. And we're flip flopping face to heel. Nobody's established really well as either one. So I don't know. I don't hold out high hopes for it, and it's not all on her. But as to Shane's point, we definitely didn't strike when the iron was hot. We let her cool down. Even Naomi showing up in Impact was a bigger deal just because there hadn't been a lot of time passed in between her leaving WWE. I'm sure it was just the legal amount of time she had to wait before she debuted there.
Well, let me ask you guys this: Julie Hart, Chris Statlander, Britt Baker. Who else you want to see Mercedes work against in AEW?
That's about it.
So I mean, you stretch that with programs maybe through the rest of 2024. You know,
I mean,
to Wes's point, what I'm saying, you do that through 2024. We don't know the length of the contract, but Royal Rumble 2025. Here's Sasha Banks again.
yeah. And then everybody's just kind of like, oh, yeah, well, she's back. Like.
And that's definitely going to happen. I mean, you can't tell me it's not going to happen. I mean, I think we'll get a good 2 years. And then Royal Rumble pops up and boom, the music hits and it's Sasha Banks again.
Yeah, and and it also, I don't know, I don't know. You only hear what you hear on the internet, but From things that you've heard about Sasha, she has a little bit of a reputation of like, I wouldn't say like she's not as bad as what CM Punk was perceived as, but like she's sometimes perceived as like a little bit of a problem in the locker room. I've just read some reports when she was in WWE and things like that. So
Well, I mean, the way she left WWE, they walked out
right,
because they weren't happy with the booking. They
right,
walked out as women's tag team champions. So,
And she big leagues fans at conventions too. That's well documented. So.
yes.
yeah.
And like when you get sick of Tony Khan's fantasy booking and not having any storyline for you and not having any direction for you, and you think you're this big star, they say you're this big star, but they don't have any plans for you. I mean, how's that going to work out for her? How's she going to handle that? That'll be interesting to see.
She's going to leave and she's going to bury them in the process, unless they can get her to sign one of these infamous NDAs. She's going to bury them in the process and go back and sing the praises of Triple H and WWE. Let's check the comments real quick from YouTube. We have Jin Ping says Ryback is all elite. I don't know how to respond to that, Jen. I don't know.
And then Ryback wakes up.
Yeah.
It would give me
Yeah.
more reason just not to watch AEW if that was the
He has
case.
another comment that says Hurricane Man. I don't know if that's in reference to Shane Helms. Here's a fun one. Someone called RJ Nobody Special Williams says, "Why are you worried about her hair? It's none of your concern."
Right, Gene?
You're right. It's none of my concern. But here's the thing: when you portray yourself to be a big star and you go walk out on TV and you make your grand debut and you show up with your hair looking like you were assaulted and somebody spray painted your head before you went out, I'm going to comment on it. Okay. No, it's none of my concern. I'm not going to lose any sleep. I'm going to sleep just fine tonight, but I thought it was worth mentioning. But sorry, RJ. But I'm not going to spend any more time on this because, I mean, you're nobody special, right? So what do I give a shit what you say? Moving on.
Thanks for watching.
So, yeah, thanks for watching. Please come again. Other news this week, the latest episode of Dark Side of the Ring. Now, we haven't been talking about these a lot lately, but I've been a fan of the Dark Side of the Ring series. In some people's opinion, they're hit or miss, and sometimes they are, as far as, how they cover things. But this week it was Buff Bagwell.
Buff Daddy.
Was the topic, and I knew that if no one else, I knew that Shane Knowles on our panel would probably have a vested interest in this episode because he's had some dealings with Buff Bagwell over the years, has booked him for Peach State Wrestling. So we're going to start with you this time. Have you had a chance to watch that yet, Shane?
I have not. It's on the DVR, but when I saw the release of the episodes for this new season of Dark Side, that was when I kind of earmarked I need to watch that first because that's normally what I'll do is let them catch up on the DVR and I'll just binge them all. That way I can get rid of Chris Jericho's voice all in one fell swoop across the board as the narrator. On current events, I mean, Marcus Bagwell and Scotty Riggs are both under the care of one Diamond Dallas Page. Is that correct? I've seen that.
Yes. During that show, just real quickly, Wes, Tyler, have either one of you seen the episode?
I haven't seen the episode in full. I've seen some clips, and I have some things to say. So I'll save that for when it's my turn.
Okay. Well, it'll be your turn here momentarily. But on the topic of Scotty Riggs, because I didn't know this, but it's revealed in the episode that Scotty, I guess his mother fell ill, and so he had kind of had to, I guess, spend out a lot of money trying to save her house. She ended up passing away. He ended up losing the house. He was living in his car, and he says that he was to the point that he was getting ready to take his own life because here he is, he's living in his car. He doesn't have, much hope for the future. And out of the blue, Buff called him because the Dark Side of the Ring guys had asked, "Hey, do you know how to get a hold of Scotty Riggs? We want to talk to him for this episode." Buff reaches out to him. Scotty tells him where he's at. He's like, "Nah, I don't really want to do it because I think I'm fixing to just off myself." And so Buff says, "Hey, man, I'm staying with Dallas. He's changed my life. He could do the same for you. Come on to Atlanta." And Scotty finally agrees. And yes, as Shane said, they are in the care of DDP, and Riggs says that if it wasn't for Buff calling him and then the help of DDP, he probably wouldn't be alive right now. So, man, enough can't be said for Diamond Dallas Page. The things he has done for guys like Scott Hall, Jake the Snake Roberts, Butterbean. That's just the people in our little world of, sports entertainment and such. Man, when you watch that documentary and you see the shape that, Jake was in when DDP took him in, when you see the shape Scott Hall was in, and I know he's passed since, but from when they roll him in that airport in that wheelchair and he's slurring his words and can barely speak, to standing on that stage at the WWE Hall of Fame, is just incredible. The guy, Diamond Dallas Page, deserves a medal, for the things that he's done to change a lot of these guys' lives. So, definitely check out the episode. There's all kinds of craziness in there. All three of his ex-wives are interviewed throughout the course of this. Referee Slick Johnson tells the story, the infamous story. I know you've heard it at some point, Knowles, of him walking into the house with his mom, Judy Bagwell, shaving his nutsack.
This is the clip I saw
on a forklift.
Yeah, that's the clip I saw, man. Believe it or not, I saw this on the list of things to talk about. I do a little bit of research for the show, so I was like, I haven't seen it. Let me look up a little bit of this, and that's the first thing that came up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, man! I'm like, I gotta watch this. This is crazy. And I've seen a lot of people on social media say that this is like one of the craziest episodes that they've put out. So, after the episode, after this episode, I might just need to watch. I need to turn it on.
It's pretty wild. It is.
That's
I say
crazy.
The Marcus Bagwell that I've had dealings with for over 15 years has never been the Marcus Bagwell that I've seen not only on wrestling website headlines, TMZ, various news outlets and newspapers. So I consider myself one of the fortunate ones. Darkside didn't come to me about this, but I'll just give you a little stuff. 2008, the first show I ever promoted, he was the main event. 2009, I wanted to book him for our first 1-year anniversary. He took the date. His agent had booked him somewhere in Michigan, legit, saw him on the poster. He couldn't make it. Where I started thinking a lot of him was, and he said, I will come back at a future date, half the price, and I will help you sell tickets. This man came down to the West Georgia flea market in some Lincoln Continental car, took off the shirt. Now, to put it in perspective, we've been selling 20 to 40 tickets per time at this flea market from 9 to 5 o'clock. Marcus Bagwell in 2009, Buff Bagwell with no shirt on, helped us sell 136 tickets at this flea market, surrounded by lawnmowers, weed eaters, and live chickens. He got a lot of people in the door. And Gene, you were here for this, the last anniversary show we did at Peach State. I think your boys were involved in that match. Buff Bagwell had a terrible knee. He was telling me that, the doctor said, I can't straighten your leg all the way out. So I thought it was just going to be, the autograph, the meet and greets. He worked a tag match that night. And I remember Larry Goodman putting it over like, how in the hell Marcus Bagwell on one leg went out there and worked a 10, 12-minute tag team match with these guys. But I know those fans in West Georgia are special to him. He's from Woodstock, Georgia. I think he thinks a lot. I think, because the promotion, he didn't want to let us down on that. And I remember talking to him a couple months after. That was the only match he did in 2022 was Peach State's anniversary show. So I root for Buff Bagwell. There you go. So I was going to say, I say all that to say I head scratch every time I see a WSB Channel 2 in Atlanta, Buff Bagwell driving impaired, Buff Bagwell falling down the stairs with, a cane up his orifice. I'm just like, how, you never truly know somebody when you're around them for 2 or 3 hours at a wrestling event. But I've worked with them on other shows that I didn't promote. So, and this stuck out to me, even though I haven't watched it yet. I think this is one of the few Dark Side of the Rings where the subject is still with us.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were talking about in past tense, and it's amazing that he's with us while this Dark Side airs. And I can only hope that under Diamond Dallas Page, he finally gets it right.
and he's in it a lot, and he doesn't shy away from most of the stuff. He reiterates a lot of these stories. They start out, I mean, they tell the story of him shooting his father, and the Gigolos debacle, that show. The only thing that I've seen debated is Shane Helms has vehemently debated Mark's version of the incident.
Mhm.
So you can watch that and draw your own conclusions of that. Where he get Helms. He said, according to him, he slapped the shit out of Helms, and then Helms busted his head open with a frozen bottle of water from behind. Um, but it's, the guys got. I always knew as soon as they mentioned it, I was like, oh, this is going to be an interesting one. Last week I watched the John Tenta episode, and it was a good watch, but it's like John Tenta doesn't fit the dark side of the ring narrative. I mean, the dark side wasn't of hit. Most of these it's of the person's doing, but I mean, John Tenta, had cancer and passed away tragically, and his family's in it. And it was a good episode, but I didn't think it really fit the dark side narrative. But it was good to have his story out there. So I recommend everybody check that out. And this week is going to be Terry Gordy, so I'm looking forward to seeing that one for sure. So
I may
anything,
break my no watching towards the end for Terry Gordy. Just saying.
yeah,
I may have to
yeah.
catch that one.
That's that one. That one should be good. Tyler, anything else to add on that subject before we move on?
No, no, I saw that's the one clip I saw of that subject, and now my interest is piqued. I've got to see the rest of this. Sounds like a train wreck, but it should be
You know,
entertaining.
and that's one more thing about Buff too, who I believe is now 53. What Gene was talking about with the Hurricane Helms, it's mind-boggling. We're coming up on the now, goodness, 23-year anniversary of WCW's final show with WWF at the time, now E buying them out. Buff only had one TV match, a couple of house show matches, but I mean, because of those AOL Time Warner contracts, he was going to be positioned as one of those big guys coming over from WCW. And for whatever various reasons, you believe it didn't work out. And he hasn't been on the main stage since.
And and he gives his version of that. And if you want to hear other perspectives, Jim Ross has a
Hmm.
very adamant version of it. But anyway, the stories are out there. But like I say, it's fun to hear his side of things and to hopefully see him coming out on the other side of this. And hopefully this will be one of DDP's biggest success stories. And the funny thing is, he's kind of like, and there's a few other wrestlers like this too. It's like you have people on this show telling stories about them that are negative. It's kind of like the Herb Abrams episode, but yet no, I mean they all still love him. Like all his ex-wives all still love the guy, and they're still rooting for the guy, and they all want they want to see him succeed, and that says a lot. Kind of to your point, Shane, that for all the as the one I think his first wife said, that Mark Bagwell and Buff Bagwell are two very different people, and it depends on which one you're dealing with at the time as far as who you get and what you get. So it sounds like you had more dealings with Mark Bagwell than Buff Bagwell. So that's fortunate, I would say. So this is the time of the show that I know is probably Wes's favorite. I figure Tyler's kind of partial to it too, but this is where we look at this week's Rock, Bloodline, Cody, and Seth update because somebody told me like, does this podcast only exist really to talk about that storyline? I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, it's what got us going. Is what really motivated us to make this start being a weekly thing because it's been interesting week to week. On Raw, we heard from Cody. I'll let you guys talk about that. I didn't see a lot of that. But I was very interested seeing the reaction that The Rock has been getting in cities week in and week out throughout this run. I knew he was going to be in Memphis, and I was interested to see how Memphis reacted. And it went exactly like I thought it would. Memphis, they looked at it as a homecoming. Rock's their guy. They didn't care about all the storyline nonsense. They supported him, and we got what was always one of my favorite Rock shticks was doing the Rock concert. He had the first couple; those are always a lot of fun. So I was excited to see what he was going to bring us, and he didn't disappoint. At least not in my opinion. Um, it was big news all over the internet that the old quote unquote Hollywood rock music returned. We had the regular opening, and then it changed over to the old heel rock theme song, and then he got some pretty good shots in during the. It's one of my favorite memes of the week right here. uh, but yeah, so we'll go in our usual circle here. We'll start with Wes and work our way around. What did you think of, if you got anything to add as far as the Cody promo and stuff from Monday night, the crying promo that Cody referenced, I mean, that Rock referenced heavily here. And then what do you think of the Rock concert?
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Cody is 100% doing what he's supposed to do. And what I mean by that is, finishes the story. Let's get this promo. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about that. And then at the same time, you got Dwayne Johnson dominating as the heel. I mean, honestly, he is the heel in this whole storyline right now. I mean, you don't need Roman Reigns. I mean, yeah, you can have Seth. Dude, it's Cody and The Rock right now. And it's fantastic. I mean, I think they're both doing a good job. I mean, The Rock. And it was funny. I saw an article today. Apparently, there's people in the WWE that's upset with the way The Rock is saying cuss words. Like he's saying too many. It's a problem. And I'm like, pick your poison. Like, I remember a couple years ago, people was like, they need to go back to that. They need to do this. And now, Dwayne comes back. He's doing it. And they're like, what? You're saying it too much. And I'm like, pick one. I understand what people say when they say, Cody's crybaby. But at the same time, I think it fits so perfect with the bloodline.
I mean, I think he's leaning into it. I think, once Rock coined the phrase Cody Crybabies, I think that promo on Monday night was done on purpose. It was giving Rock more to work with. But I mean, like you said, Cody, what he said was in context of the story, and it was justified. But it also gave The Rock ammunition for Friday night, So I think they're both playing their roles perfectly. As far as the cussing on social media, it's social media. What the hell does it matter? And then as far as like all the people have been yelling at the top of their lungs for years, we need to go back to the Attitude Era. We need to go back to the Attitude Era. This PG stuff sucks. And The Rock calls Seth the crossdresser, and people want to cancel him. Stupid. Like you people couldn't handle if they went back to the Attitude Era, because what he's doing now is minor. Not counting the F words on Instagram or whatever, but I'm just saying the stuff he's saying in promos that people are getting upset about. It's like, come on, this is nothing.
Well, a good podcast has opposite viewpoints. Me and Wes are not exactly always in agreement about Cody. I'm not the biggest Cody fan. Going back to AEW, and I always said one of my biggest criticisms of him in AEW was all those, those like boohoo promo stuff that he does, and I'm like, I think that's a large part of why the fans turned on him. And I keep saying, once he wins the title, it's going to be good. It's going to be good for a few months. But if he doesn't change his style, or if he keeps cutting those little boohoo, I'm Dusty's son, my mom so strong, I'm going to cry some more promos, I think the fans are going to get sick of it. By next year's WrestleMania, I think they'll be ready for the next guy. Truly, that's just my opinion on Cody Rhodes, and that's why I'm not the biggest fan of him. But he did what I think Cody does all the time, and it was fine. But man, The Rock, I'm telling you, and I sound like just this old school guy that just grew up on The Rock, and that's probably why I love him so much. But like, I just think The Rock is just on a different level from like just all these other current wrestlers in the game right now. I mean, he commands the crowd, whether they love him or hate him. The crowd leans into his every word. That concert was pure entertainment, as they always are. One of my favorites was the one with Cena that he did a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all the jabs about beating him with his fanny pack and Cody crybabies and you know shut up and telling them to shut their mouths. That's putting it kindly, but yeah, going back to and then to touch on like the cussing and The Rock doing this or doing that, like you don't want to bring The Rock back and then water him down. Like The Rock is good because he's The Rock. Like I mean, it's he's injecting some entertainment that I think that we sorely needed for a little while. So I'm all for it. But then again, I'm a big Roman and Rock Mark, not the biggest Cody fan. So that's a good opposite viewpoints makes for a good podcast. So
Well, absolutely. And if it's okay with me to say, I mean, I can't sit here and say no. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is not a great promo guy. He's one of the best of all time. Absolutely. But the last matches we saw with Dwayne,
right,
Yeah, I mean that's going to be his high spots are these promos for sure.
yeah.
And then
And I
I got
mean,
a couple more thoughts to follow up on Tyler's thoughts, but let's let Shane get a chance to give his, and then we'll go back
A
around.
lot to unpack here. I want to piggyback up what Tyler said. I think Cody Rhodes is at his best, just like his father, when he has been wronged. There is vengeance and there's going to be hell to pay. And I'm speaking with emotion and I'm speaking clearly, baby. And I am ready to. I don't want to see my baby faces in tears constantly because I think wimp, I think shallow, I think, why would I get behind it? I want more of the Cody Rhodes, like he showed in some of these promos towards Dwayne and Roman, that fired up charisma energy that he can bring. Anybody can go out there and cry, man. Just saying. To the point about Rock taking over, Roman Reigns is solo Sequoia when Dwayne Johnson is present. That's exactly how it's felt to me for the last 5 weeks. He's got the belt. He's an afterthought. Like you said, it's Cody and The Rock at this point, and Rollins and Reigns are bit players finishing in around this story. The Rock's entertaining. That Rock concert, I liked how he made fun of himself with the fanny pack, the high top fade haircut, and the sideburns. I loved the shot at Memphis Grizzlies All Pro John Morant. If you don't know about Morant, a guy that got caught with a gun on social media, they suspend you, say don't do it. Okay, you got it. Goes back out and does it again, suspended the rest of the season. But just like in Salt Lake City, where he ripped those people to shreds, then he has to go around after the show and shake hands and say, just part of the show. I'm sorry. He rips John Morant and says, oh, I'm sorry, John. I love you. Stop. Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman aren't saying, we're going to take everything from you, Roman. You talked about my father, but it's just part of the script. If you're going to be heel, be heel. You're still going to do okay at the box office, even if you let us all believe just for a second that you meant that shit. Just for a little bit. As far as the cursing, I don't have a problem with it on social media. Do what you want. We're doing what we want right now. There is a little bit of me, though, that you're going out there saying you're going to beat the shit out of Cody Rhodes on SmackDown. And it is a no-no for maybe Jimmy Uso to tell his own brother that I'm going to do that. So I hope I'm making it clear. Twitter, Instagram, every Friday, Rock drop them all, baby. But on TV, I could see where some talent would be like, why can't I inject a little bit of this profanity to make it more on our product? And one more thing, no one's ever going to tell him no because he's on the board of directors and he is the Rock Dwayne Johnson. But less is more. These things don't have to be 32 to 45 minutes where everyone else's match times are getting cut. They have no entrances on TV. We already see them in the ring because we got to make time for Dwayne to keep running the yap. But all put together, there's no one like him. I'm just nitpicking for little things here that they could still make it better along the way.
Plus, we're on Fox, so every time he cusses or says something off color, we dump the freaking audio. But we end up losing more than just the word that we're trying to. And then, God forbid, these stupid fans chanting things that they have to dump the audio. And you say then you lose half a segment for them trying to either A, dump the audio for the chant, or B, black out the screen because somebody has a sign out there they don't want seen.
I saw something on social media saying during the Rock concert it went black for like a short little bit, and on social media I don't know if it's true or not, but they claim some woman flashed the screen or something like that, or in the crowd.
Well, it's Memphis.
Right.
That's probably true. As for the Cody, like for the Cody stuff, okay, I get the not crying thing. But at the same time, he's getting called Cody Crybaby, so he's kind of leaning into that a little bit. As for why he stopped getting over in AEW, my theory on that has always been, and maybe I'm wrong. Y'all can disagree. Tell me why I'm wrong. I didn't think he did so much of the crying "I'm Dusty's kid" shit in AEW as he's done the entire run of WWE. I think where he went wrong in AEW and where the Young Bucks went wrong and where Kenny Omega went wrong, they came out the gate saying we're the EVPs publicly, not on television directly, but everybody in general knew that he was one of the guys running the company. He was one of the founders of the company. And then they did that dumb thing where he lost the match, where he's never going to get a shot at the world title. So anything he said seemed disingenuous because it's like, dude, you're running this shit. It'd be like Triple H going out trying to act like he has no power over, trying to put over a storyline that he's in some kind of, trouble when, like, dude, you're running this. You're not in trouble. We don't feel sorry for you. And I think another key, and one of y'all mentioned this, I think, in one of our previous shows, I think the Brandy factor had a lot of the reason that people hated him in AEW because he kept trotting her out there and they tried to make her a focal point. And bless her heart, she's just not likable in many ways. And I think that hurt him as well because it was that, that whole Rob Zombie effect that people get mad at his movies because he shoves his wife down their throat in every movie. And I think people thought like, all right, well, Brandy was only good enough to be a ring announcer in WWE, yet you're trying everything in the world to try to get her over on AEW. She's managing, she's running that heels thing, whatever the fuck that was. And then she's out there cutting promos on old MMA guy, the belt collector guy, having verbal jabs back and forth with him, Lambert, that guy. So I think there's a lot to it besides Cody's promos that shot him in the foot in AEW. And
I want to touch on one thing you said, Gene. I've loved everything they've done, the pivot that they had to do, where they'll never admit it, but they have done it. I've loved everything about you win, bloodline rules are out of the way, we're banned, but if you lose, it's bloodline rules. But what you just said about AEW, why do we go so far to say if you lose the tag, you're not getting another shot at the title? As if we didn't know it was going to be Cody's coronation. Leave us a little bit of doubt that the bloodline, I mean,
yeah.
Why do the same AEW thing? It didn't work there. I thought that's the only minor little hiccup in this deal that I haven't cared.
Yeah, I didn't really like that. I didn't like that either. And I don't really love this whole, like, it's one thing for them to say in the media that The Rock's on the board of directors, but the fact we keep playing that card on TV and promos, like, I'm on the board of directors. So this, it's like, let's not,
I think it's leaning into. I think it's leaning into the criticisms people had of, like, social media had of The Rock, the Cody Crybabies, so to say. Like, I remember when it first started, when Rock came back and he took Cody's spot after that episode in Birmingham. Everyone's like, "Oh well, he just joined the TKO board, and now here he is," but inserting himself, stealing Cody's main event. And I think that's where that comes from.
But that to me is an AEW mentality because that's only a small vocal minority of people who are actually on social media talking about this shit, which is a very small minority of people. The people who are on Facebook every day making all these smart mark analyzations like that right there, they're a very small minority. But when you're out there saying that on Fox in a promo in front of an arena full of people and people watching at home, it now becomes part of the storyline. So from a kayfabe perspective, from the guy who don't exactly understand how all this works, well, damn, if he's on the board, ain't no damn way that he's going, it's going to go, he's writing this shit or whatever. Like, I just think it convolutes it even more. I just think it convolutes the whole thing even more. But I mean, it's entertaining, and the one thing I'll say about all of it is it's all thrown a huge wrinkle into everything to where everybody, even the smartest of the smarts, even the dirt sheet guys, even the Meltzers of the world, don't really know how the shit's going to go exactly. I mean, it's starting to spell itself out a little bit more as they announce matches and as they announce stipulations, and you start deducting, well, if they're doing this on Friday night and this is going to add up to that. But even then, there's still several different avenues they can take with this. We talked about that last week about, well, maybe The Rock and Roman, lose, so then Cody gets the fair title shot. and that's how Cody gets the win. But then again, maybe more likely Cody and Seth lose, and then you're like, there's no way he can win the title because he's got to overcome all this adversity. And then he does, and it means even more when he wins the title. Or maybe they screw him and he doesn't win at WrestleMania. Now he's forever got an excuse, but he's going to be Lex Luger at that point. He's going to be, he's going to be Cody in AEW, where now he's dead in the water. He can never win the title unless they find some loophole stipulation, which now negates one of the big stipulations of the match, which I fucking hate. I hate when they make a stipulation and then we go back and do something to cancel out later, because it just means all the stipulations moving forward mean less, because now we know they can undo that later if they want to. So it's really not big stakes because none of it really matters. So I do like the fact that everybody knows that this is a pivot, whether they want to admit it or not. And we know that we're in really rare territory here where WrestleMania plans got completely sideways and we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants week in and week out. And it involves the biggest star in the world at one point. I don't know if he can still be considered that now after he's had some of these, box office bombs, and he's not the darling of Hollywood he was a year ago, but still, WWE for the last 10 years would give their left nut to have The Rock on TV frequently. And if he says fuck on Instagram, I don't think they care. Steve Austin could get on there and tell people to blow him from WWE on Instagram. And if he would come do SmackDown and Raw, or at least SmackDown every week on Fox, he could say whatever he wanted. He could wrestle whoever he wanted. He could beat whoever he wanted, because those guys draw numbers that, I like Cody. I'm a Cody fan, but he will never draw the numbers that The Rock has or Steve Austin has and will when they come back. They're on like you said, they're on another stratosphere than any of the current stars are or will ever be. And that's just a fact. So going to the comments again real quickly. Tommy Todd said, I wonder what Tyler's watching on television because I see the color changing on his wall. LOL. And then Tommy said, The Rock singing to Vicky will never be beat. And he is right. If you go to YouTube and look up The Rock singing to Vicky Guerrero, that is one of the funniest freaking things they've ever done on there. It's tremendous. Anytime it pops up in my timeline on Facebook, I watch it again and usually try to share it because it's highly entertaining.
I'm just
I can't hear "Wonderful Tonight" by Eric Clapton without thinking of that concert. So.
I'm just watching Roman beat Cody on repeat from last year's WrestleMania.
Well, watch it while you can, pal. We're going to correct that this year. All right, so I think we got our Rock bloodline, Cody, Seth, out of our system for this week. So we'll see where we go with that next week. So now we're going to talk about the WWE Hall of Fame for a little bit. And I'll go ahead and say, just for you guys' benefit, the other thing we were going to do this week with the pictures and all that, we're going to shift that to next week. We're already almost an hour in, and we're just getting to the Hall of Fame bit. So the reason we're talking about this in our main event group chat where we discuss our comedy shows and this and that, me and Wes and Shane were kind of having a discussion as the announcements came out about Muhammad Ali going into the Hall of Fame, and you got Bull Nakano going in. We started talking about, like, what are the qualifications, number one, for people to go in the WWE Hall of Fame. Obviously, it's not that you've had to wrestle in WWE, because there's guys like Abdullah the Butcher and Bullet Bob Armstrong that never had a single WWF match in their life, but they're in the WWE Hall of Fame. You've got the celebrity wing of people like Drew Carey and now soon to be Muhammad Ali, which is, I get it. That's another thing. But the thing we were talking about, and this is the main thing I kind of want to get your guys' opinion on, and I know at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I mean, this is just a discussion for discussion's sake, because I know there's a lot of factors that go into it. But it's crazy to me, and I know it's mostly political. I know it has to do with getting permission from the family for people who are no longer with us. But the fact that, you know, and I always say this name, and I like the guy. I'm not being I'm not being dismissive, but Coco Beware is in the WWE Hall of Fame, and Ivan Koloff's not, and Demolition is not, and Rick Rude's not, is he? I don't believe.
He is. Yeah, his family.
Rude is. I'm sorry,
They.
Rude
Yeah.
is. But there's a whole lot of people that are higher up the food chain than he is, or the bushwhackers of some of those guys that are in there. What are you guys' thoughts on that? As far as it seems to be more about putting on a television show every year and having a tier system of, we got the big headliner, we've got the lower card, we've got the who the hell knows why they're going in, besides the fact they're famous, aka Muhammad Ali, Andy Kaufman, Drew Carey, people of that ilk. And then you got your Warrior Award, which runs the gamut of, it could be a heroic wrestler, or it could be somebody from behind the scenes. It could be, he got the most coffee for all the, people over the years, whatever. Um, what are your thoughts? We'll start with Wes.
I mean, he said a big thing, and I think a name, in my opinion, Andy Kaufman, in my opinion, did enough to be in the Hall of Fame. He was wrestling, women and was women's champion, had a huge rivalry with Jerry the King Lawler, and him and the King was fantastic, Um, dude, there's so many names, and I'm not going to name because there's a few that you can't name that I think should be
I
on
will. Shit.
this. I mean,
Sheet or Shane, brother.
there's a few names. I'm like, I want to name them, but can I?
I
You know,
mean, who's going to? I mean, what are you worried that? I mean, Vince can't keep you out of the Hall of Fame now, Wes. I mean, if you want to
You think
say,
you're going to upset nobody special?
you think nobody special is going to come back, or you think Paul's watching? I can't believe that Wes was naming names.
he had the names. But no, let's just be honest, guys. Like Chris Benoit. No.
No. I'm sorry. I've had this argument with people, and I'll die on this hill. There's certain things you can do that trumps fucking dumbass wrestling, and I don't give a fuck how good of a technical wrestler you are, how many world titles you won. You murder your family, you don't go in the Hall of Fame. You just don't. I'm sorry.
But Kid Rock's in there.
Kid Rock didn't murder his family.
Well,
He shot up some cans of Bud Light, which I know pisses you off because I see you drinking Bud Light on every episode. Doesn't make him a murderer. Sorry. Next.
Well, I mean, I can weigh in with mine. When you were mentioning the celebrities, it is kind of crazy. We love him or hate him. We have a former president in the WWE Hall of Fame now. He was in the Hall of Fame before he was president, but Donald Trump shaved Vince McMahon's head, so he's in the Hall of Fame, which is crazy. So it's pretty obvious what the celebrity requirements are. You just have to be involved in some sort of moment with WWE and be somewhat notable, and they'll throw you in there. Now, as far as the wrestler portion of it, that's it's a good question to think on. And I saw something, and this might piss some of you off. I don't know, but I saw where there's talk of Bray Wyatt going potentially being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I love Bray Wyatt, but I just don't. I'm sorry, I don't think it was a Hall of Fame career. I mean, it's bad to say, but I don't think it was. But that brings up the discussion that we're having here. Like, I don't know if Bray Wyatt's a Hall of Famer. I truly don't know what the qualifications are, because I mean, not that Bray wasn't great. It's just not Hall of Fame worthy to me.
Well, see, that's where it is for me. Is like, Okay, as what I would consider Hall of Fame worthy. If you take what gets you in the Hall of Fame in legitimate sports and other halls of fame and apply that to wrestling, no, I don't think Bray Wyatt qualifies to be in the Hall of Fame. However, you can take the careers of other people who are in the Hall of Fame, and Bray Wyatt achieved a bigger level of stardom and did more things than they did. So now you're back to, okay, well, maybe he does go in the Hall of Fame because, he's done more. You can name a half a dozen people who are in the Hall of Fame that he's done more than they did. Does that mean he should go in? No, it just means they probably shouldn't have gone in. And he's
Right.
going to go in. I hope it ain't this year because it just feels like it's just like there's going to be that element of like, well, they just did it because he died.
It
But
feels
he's
like
probably
that
going to
with a
go
lot of
in.
people. Yeah, it
Yeah.
feels like that. They did it with China. Like China to me, like China. I don't know. Maybe this is controversial too. I do think China was a Hall of Famer because like you hadn't seen a female wrestler like China come. Well, I mean, maybe you have, but I'm not super old, so um, I
Like
just know
us, Shane.
back when I was in the I grew up in the Attitude Era, but like yeah, like you said, after they pass away, they tend to like give them that as like a last thing. Like I felt like China should have been in there when she was alive, but she did all the they had the adult film stuff and all sorts of stuff that she did. So yeah,
And
it's
that's
kind
the
of
only
weird
reason
to me.
she wasn't. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. That's the only reason she wasn't in there prior is because A,
Triple
she
H,
did the
too.
adult film stuff. B, she was Triple H's ex, and that was awkward to have Stephanie sitting out there clapping for his ex or whatever. Shane, is being an old man, as he just referred to, would you like to weigh in on any of the things he just said to
I will.
supply
I'll
the?
be using. I'll be applying some anti-aging cream after tonight's show.
I'm the
But
heel tonight, I think.
Yeah,
you've
you
never
may.
seen a woman like that. You never saw Farmer Fran with Glow Wrestling. Come on. But we were talking about what makes a Hall of Famer. For years, it was under the thumb of one Vincent Kennedy McMahon, who he wanted to go in. He was a committee of one. Unlike other sports, I don't know if there still is, but there was no council of journalists, scribes, retired wrestlers, announcers, broadcasters, referees, you name it. So it was just whoever was good politically standing with Vince. There's inconsistencies. We've put in the Rock and Roll Express, who did work for the WWE under the Smoky Mountain banner, but we haven't put in the Midnight Express. We put in the Bushwhackers, who didn't win a single title during their WWE 6 year run. Demolition is not in multiple tag team title reigns. As you alluded to, Coco Beware. Hey, I'm old. I can't name one notable feud in the WWF that Coco Beware had. I can't name you one title he won because the answer to both of those is zero. And I like Coco Beware, but just saying. So are we looking at it from fans, Hall of Fame, or what the company wants to present to you is a Hall of Famer? And as I said in our main event comedy chat, this is all just hogwash at the end of the day. We can all debate it and certainly have done so. I've been doing this for years on with various people, but it's the story is what they tell us. They want to tell you who a Hall of Famer is, and whether you like it or you don't, that's the direction the company's going. What I mentioned was I think we should scale back what Gene was talking about, the plethora of the dais. First class, 1994, Andre the Giant, the only Hall of Famer by himself. Not saying you only have to do one, but I think two at most, three if you've got to. This 5 or 6 stuff where we're getting the Steiner brothers have a 5 minute speech because we're lost for time. Are you kidding me? We have so many inductees, like you said, for a TV show that Rick and Scott Steiner get 5 to 6 minutes. It's rushed. This should never be rushed. I'm not saying everybody has to go like Taker and Flair, an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes, but even the lowest level attendee should, inductee should get 10, 15, 15 to 20 if they so choose. It is their Hall of Fame. It is their moment. The celebrity wings, if you have contributions to the business, and like Wes said, Andy Kaufman made a major one in that. But I wanted to touch on the Muhammad Ali thing. Ali, he was the referee or the special enforcer for WrestleMania 1. We have to think back how we thought of wrestling then, how we think of it now. Him being the enforcer for WrestleMania 1 in Madison Square Garden, pretty big deal. at the time. And us old heads, myself and Gene, will remember when Ali did something with Gorilla Monsoon that Ali's camp didn't even know about. He worked his own camp with Gorilla Monsoon and did the match with now WWE Hall of Famer Antonio Inoki, kind of a precursor to MMA with the boxing style, with Inoki fighting on his back, kicking, things like that. So I don't have a problem with it, but something I brought up, I've got a problem with people going in after they die when you've had the opportunity. Ali did those things in the late 70s, early 80s. He passed away in 2016. We're inducting him in 2024, 8 years after his passing.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't know why Lex Luger, just to get on a name here, hasn't been inducted. Tag team titles, Four Horsemen, WCW titles, sold a lot of merch. I'll say this: Luger was not the greatest promo. He was not the greatest in-ring worker, but in today's time, he's main event in either company. I think put at the prime of Lex Luger right now, he still wouldn't be able to do the moonsaults through space heaters, but I guarantee he'd still be a top tier talent. And I think Lex, someone they've made amends with. He's certainly appeared on biographies and specials for the company. I could go on. You mentioned Ivan Koloff, a guy who beat Bruno Sammartino for the title when that was, complete me if you want, big fucking deal when that happened. And he's not in. He's one of the few champions of the company that's not in. So I don't know. Didn't put a big bow on this. It is their choices. I don't know if it's Triple H and Nick Khan, if they have a panel now, but I know for over 25 years it was a committee of one, and he's gone, thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to clarify. I said that name, and almost everybody's commented on it. I wasn't lobbying for the fact that I didn't think Andy Kaufman should be in the Hall of Fame. But again, it's all right. So is this the wrestling? I mean, wrestling's been a dirty word for years in WWE. Is it the Wrestling Hall of Fame or is it the WWE Hall of Fame? Because Andy Kaufman never did anything in WWE. Again, Abdullah the Butcher never did anything in WWE. There's a lot of people who are in the WWE Hall of Fame who literally never wrestled a match in WWE. But you know, it is what it is. But I'm always going to be, and I think Tyler. So we did an episode of the podcast before it went on hiatus, for lack of a better word. The day after we did a podcast talking about Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk's passing because they passed within 24 hours of each other. And this exact topic came up in that podcast was, do you think Bray Wyatt will go in the Hall of Fame? And I think Wes was of the opinion that, yes, he should go in the Hall of Fame. And the conversation went kind of similar today. But I said the same thing I said earlier. And again, it sounds like I'm picking on the guy. I've worked with the guy before. He's a good guy. But my go-to always is when somebody says, like, no, this person's not, a big enough deal to be in the Hall of Fame. It's like Coco Beware's in the Hall of Fame. And like Shane just said, he never held a title. He never was in a main event. He never was in a significant angle. Bray Wyatt was champion. Bray Wyatt was in significant angles. He feuded with John Cena. He did a number of things. So my argument's always going to be for almost anybody who wasn't just a straight jobber. If you say they don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, I'll be like, well, I agree with you. But if Coco Beware's in, anybody can go in. I mean, it is a fact. I don't know. I don't know if we can rectify that now. But he's going to go in. It's just a matter of when. I was not big on Edge going in the year after he retired due to injury. I mean, maybe now you can say he had a Hall of Fame career, but at that time, and it being just a few months after, or a year, I guess, after he had retired due to injury, I was like, this dude ain't a Hall of Famer, and especially not. I mean, he's standing on stage now. I don't even think he was 40 at the time. So I don't know. It all kind
I
of.
do want to give a shout out to Mike Rotunda, though. Someone from the family is going in this year, and I'm happy for it. Wyndham's already in as a horseman. Mike Rotunda, man, that's pretty cool. So,
and hear the fact that people are lobbying for his son to go in, and then Mike still wasn't in with all the things he had done in his career. And you kind of have to ask yourself, would Mike be going in, or are we putting him in lieu of pulling the trigger on Bray Wyatt right now?
Right.
but we're still kind of playing on Bray Wyatt's popularity and people's interest by putting his father in, and then we'll wait a couple of years and put Bray in somewhere else, because I don't think they're going to put him in this year just because he would be overshadowed by Paul Heyman in Philadelphia, because
Oh, and
nobody's
one
going
more
to
thing
go ahead.
to your point there. Thunderbolt Patterson never worked for WWE.
Absolutely.
I'm happy for Thunderbolt, one of my mother's favorite wrestlers, a legend in and around Georgia and the Southeast. But when I saw that name break Wednesday morning, I had to double take. I was like, Thunderbolt Patterson, WWE Hall of Fame, who had not one moment, and I'm not discrediting anything Thunderbolt did, big regional star. But I think if we lined up 60 guys that wasn't in the Hall, I don't know if Thunderbolt Patterson is on the first 60 that you start naming.
And everywhere I saw it posted where young people were commenting, they were all just like, who is that? Why are they going in? I mean, so, I think Thunderbolt probably did more to influence people. He's probably going in more for the influences he had on people more than anything he actually accomplished in his career. And that's fair. But to kind of keep with something we've been doing a lot lately, like every week we've kind of had our top, this many of, we had our dream match, we had a WrestleMania match. This week, since there's four of us, I don't want to turn into a long thing, but just right now, go around the circle off the top of your head. Who had your favorite Hall of Fame induction speech of all time that you've seen in WWE?
Uh,
Ric
my
Flair
my
for me. I mean, it was the night before he retired in Orlando. He did go a little long. He was emotional, but it was a big deal. I mean, Flair, the perception around him has certainly changed in the last 3, 4, 5 years. But 2008, knowing that it was probably the last match against Shawn Michaels in Orlando, I felt like the gravitas for that Hall of Fame with him going on last and who was in attendance that night was really cool.
Agree.
my favorite was more recent. It was Ultimate Warrior, and I thought the way everything went down was just so crazy. Like I mean, he gave the first they had to bury the hatchet with WWE. Like there was like this whole thing with Ultimate Warrior and Vince and WWE and all that. Oh, anyway, he gets the induction, goes on a Monday Night Raw, gives that like promo where it sounds like he's almost saying goodbye, like, and then the next day he's gone. So that was crazy the way it played out, especially since like when it first came out, I was like, wow, did he just? Like the first thing I thought was that like no way he just passed away of natural causes, but he did. And it's just the way everything played out. I thought that was, I mean, that's truly going out on top. And I'm glad he was able to live and experience, getting inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame when he probably never thought he would. So I thought that was neat.
No, because that would have been another one of those, like Shane said, where like they shunned him, they made a DVD shitting on him while he was alive, and then they would have put him in the Hall of Fame 6 years after he died, and everybody would have, been like, really, is this really, are they really being sincere? But since he was able to be there, and like you said, if you go back and watch that Hall of Fame speech and watch that promo on Raw with all that in mind of how it plays out, it's
eerie. Yeah, it's eerie, but
yes. I was about to say spooky, but I was afraid that would sound bad. But it
yeah,
is. It is. It's like somewhere inside he knew. And Wes, who you got?
I mean, I know he had an AEW career, but I gotta go with Sting. I was there live. I got to see his speech in person, and even though he didn't have a tremendous WWE career, he had a fantastic wrestling, career.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
he deserved that moment, regardless of anything he did in WWE. For me, and this was before they started, airing them on TV and having a big audience and all this.
I got an
But I,
honorable
re-
mention too.
but I recently rewatched it on YouTube. It popped up and I watched it again. And my all-time favorite Hall of Fame speech is Bobby the Brain Heenan. If you haven't ever seen that, go on YouTube and watch it. It's really good. What's your honorable mention, Shane?
This I should say even more. I didn't mean to cut you short, but even above Ric Flair, Diamond Dallas Page. why it's the only Hall of Fame speech that I think I've watched 3 different times. The emotion and what it meant to Dally, and citing the phone call with Dusty Rhodes, citing that you made it, saying that he was too old, when you started at 35, and just the emotion. And even in that same Hall of Fame ceremony, I believe it was, the Rock and Roll Express, Cornette's introduction, tremendous. But for 2 guys that really didn't show a whole lot of emotion when Ricky Morton said, Robert and I have shared the best of the best in life, and we have shared life's tragedies up and down the road. He said, at home, I have 4 brothers, but on this stage in my heart, I have 5. To see Robert Gibson get so cracked up and say, I love you, my friend, he had to turn his back to the camera. That was really cool to see those guys get their moment together. But Diamond Dallas Page, even above Flair, I would say.
Worst Hall of Fame speech, Mr. T. I dare you to beat that.
Great Muda?
Well, that wasn't his fault though.
I don't know. Michael Hayes is pretty bad.
Yeah, the singing was. Yeah,
I saw that live.
Yeah, I was gonna say being there live. I'm sure that took on a whole nother.
I was like, oh, good Lord.
To touch
Hey,
on
I'm in the hall.
something Shane said earlier, it was offensive to me that the Steiner brothers got 5 minutes, the greatest, arguably to me, one of the top 5 greatest tag teams of all time, because we had to have speeches from people like Charmel, who's only in the Hall of Fame for being Booker T's wife / his manager, because our other claim to fame was managing the Maestro in WCW. Like, I don't know. That is just like, what a travesty. I mean, I understand they had to get a handle on it, because at one time you had guys like Hillbilly Jim talking for 37 minutes, and it's like, get the hook, like, wrap it up, like, please. But, now you got guys who deserve to have, if you ask me, those TV shows should have been like the main 1 or 2 people, and all the others, go watch it on YouTube, go watch it on the website, whatever.
Yeah.
But let those guys get their time. And I know at one time, like I said, it was way out of hand. Flair went on forever. Dusty went a long time, even though his was good. It got way out of hand. But yeah, I'm glad you said that, Shane, because the Steiner one, that one has stuck in my craw for ever since it happened. I was glad the Undertaker got time to say seemingly just about everything he needed to say, until now he's started a podcast. I guess he has more to say.
And if I thought The Rock went long on TV, just wait till he gets inducted, the first 2-hour Hall of Fame speech.
We're going to have the first half of The Rock's Hall of Fame speech on night 1, and then on night 2 he'll finish it out after the main event. Bring a pillow and and a blanket. He's going to put everybody to bed tonight.
It'll be the Bloodline night 1, and then him night 2.
As long as Brian Gewirtz can write it for him, because he's highly entertaining as long as somebody's writing it for him. You let the man speak on his own, and we're in trouble. But anyway, no offense, Tyler. He's still a better speaker than poor old Roman. But he's come a long way, is all I can say. Reigns has come a long, long way. So, anything else anybody wants to throw out before we wrap this one up? We're about an hour and 20 minutes in. And I think I always say it's a crime to go more than 90 minutes. It's too long to ask him.
You guys may have done this in recent weeks, but I wasn't privy to it. So I just want to ask you all, outside of what we spent a lot of time on, the Bloodline angle, what match are you most looking forward to at Mania?
Personally, I'm not aware there are any other matches at Mania. So,
because we're 2 weeks out, right?
I'm excited for Jimmy versus Jay. But I'm a Bloodline guy. I think that's a good wrap up to that little feud, and I think it's going to be an awesome match too. I mean, put the Usos in a match. I mean, that's going to be awesome.
Is it official now that Gunther's wrestling Sammy?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Fans weren't happy about that. That goes. I mean, this we can touch on this in another episode, but that goes back to like my point about Cody and how these fans just don't stick with their guys for too long. Like people were really mad that like Chad Gable isn't going to face Gunther. Like Sami Zayn's the only believable person that was in that gauntlet match that I could legitimately possibly see beating Gunther, and I don't think he's going to. But Yeah, fans were mad about that. I don't know. They
The
just
same people that were having a meltdown that he didn't win the title in Montreal are now mad that
right.
he's going for the Intercontinental title.
Right. What a rub it would be if they would have him beat Gunther. I mean, that would be huge, but they don't seem to care.
He
They're
breaks
pissed.
the longest Intercontinental title reign in history and does it at WrestleMania after having won the tag titles at a previous WrestleMania. Yeah.
Yeah. Now they want to
Wrestling
throw him
fans are
out the
fickle
building.
as hell. I mean, they
They
really
are.
are. They're the worst. No offense.
What about you, Les, outside of Cody? Maybe finishing the story, what match you most looking forward to?
I'm honestly looking forward to seeing Bailey finish her story. I'll be honest with you. I'm enjoying that's a long term storyline that we've seen for what, maybe 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And to see Bailey finally, well, I ain't gonna say finally because she's had her moment, but to have this kind of moment, I think to me it'd be legendary. I mean,
She
I think
deserves it.
she deserves it. Absolutely. Yeah.
She's my favorite of the
She
four horsewomen.
deserves
Bailey's
it.
always been my favorite, so I'm a fan of that.
She deserves it. So
Mine
real
is
quickly,
Rhea and Becky. I think
that
that's going to be good. I have no doubt about Rhea Ripley's ability to perform on the biggest stage, and Becky's pretty darn good in her own right.
Rhea Ripley drug a good match out of Nia Jax at Elimination Chamber. I have a whole new respect for that lady. I'm just not a big fan of Becky Lynch.
Gene,
I
we are the
mean,
same, man. First it was Sheamus last week. Now it's Becky this week. Yeah, we're just anti country of Ireland, I guess.
I
But
guess so.
yeah,
I mean, I've tried to make myself care, but I don't like her accent. But she can't help that. But like, to me, what really rubs me the wrong way about her and her character is the fact that she's supposed to be one of the heads of the women's revolution, and she proves that by making her moniker the Man. Like, okay, so that's what makes you the best woman, is to call yourself the Man. Like, that's totally counterintuitive to the whole movement that you're supposedly head of. But whatever, it is what it is. We can debate that one for a while. But here's something I'm looking forward to hearing. If we can put him on the spot, we're going to put him directly on the spot right now, because Shane Knowles was not here for the "What's your favorite WrestleMania match of all time" episode, and he was not here for "What's your all-time dream match" episode. Now, the dream match, just to define that can be any wrestler from any time period, alive or dead, against any wrestler from any time period, alive or dead. Just a dream match that you never saw that you would love to have seen. But what's your all-time favorite WrestleMania match before we get the dream match?
WrestleMania 2 when Jake the Snake Roberts defeated George Wales in an enticing bout. I had to.
I was going to say, I didn't know when I heard you say WrestleMania 2, I'm like, this is a joke because there was not a good match at WrestleMania 2.
I don't
Right.
even know who George Wells is, so I was
No one
smiling. I was like,
does.
yeah, maybe he was good.
Most obscure guy ever in a Mania match. Drop one to old Jake.
Put him in the Hall of
Um,
Fame.
both of them involve Shawn Michaels. One, the retirement match with Michaels and Flair in 2008. And as much as I enjoyed the Undertaker, this was probably said by someone, the Undertaker Shawn Michaels streak versus career, I like the first one better because I didn't know that Shawn Michaels was going to retire in that one. You know what I mean? So just see, hello, fireworks. I'm seeing the two of them. Where
What
did
the hell
that
is
come
going
from?
on?
I'm not doing anything.
I didn't do that. I don't even have the ability
Dude,
to
I
do
got
that.
some good weed. Holy shit.
I've been
But
looking at I've been looking at Wes's eyes for the last 20 minutes, and like he's been coming and going, but he just came
yeah,
back
give
big time. Like,
I'm like,
give me
oh
a
shit.
give
I
me
mean, Tyler
Michaels and
was giving
Taker the first one. That was my favorite WrestleMania match.
Tyler, I don't remember which
Uh,
answer Tyler was given a minute ago, but Wes was like, I was like, he's fixing to go face down to that keyboard. Like this is fixing to be over. Okay,
dream match for me, prime. I don't know, say 94, 95, Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle. Give me 20 minutes of that. I don't even care what the story is, and I'm sure it'd probably be pretty good. But give me those two guys. I think I'm a happy fan.
I respect that. If you want to hear what our favorite matches were, you got to go back and watch that podcast because
Yeah.
we're not going to repeat it. But I will say, my original dream match that I said in a random episode was the Steiners versus the British Bulldogs, but I gave a different answer
Oh.
because I had already said that. But you take like 92 Steiners against like 85 British Bulldogs.
Ooh.
Yeah. Can't beat it.
That should be making fireworks go off behind me, not to mention of George Wales.
Yeah, that's pretty wild that you mentioned. Hey, when I see your favorite WrestleMania, you're like, WrestleMania 2. And I'm running down my head. I was like, Hogan and Bundy. No. That god-awful boxing match with Piper and Mr. T. No. That football player battle royal. No.
That was my favorite from Mania too.
I mean, favorite from Mania 2, but like of all the WrestleManias, there's no match from WrestleMania 2 that justifies mentioning, and especially that you picked George Wells, because that's the most obscure shit ever. So well played, Mr. Knowles. And if you want to hear more great humor such as that, join us this Saturday night at Atomic Johnny's at 8 p.m. for the next main event comedy show live. Hopefully we can get Tyler down there to one of these and we can meet him in person.
Right, man. I need to get down there and sign some autographs or something.
Yeah, we got to get him down there and straighten out his attitude on some of these wrestling things.
Right,
he's getting out of pocket here lately. He's turning heel on us.
Folks, only $10 for tickets at the door. There will be drink specials for beer as well as George Wells drinks. So.
The old George Wells drinks. And I got to say, if you weren't at the last one, Wes came in hot with probably the most offensive joke that's ever been told at Atomic Johnny's of all time.
You have made your father proud.
Yes. Knowles was telling everyone at church.
No, I'm going to cry like that.
He was telling his Sunday school, like, I need y'all to pray for my boy Wes. He said something last night that probably on a couple of watch lists right now. And,
well, Wes, you got to tell me this off camera. You got to tell me what this was. I'm intrigued now. It's like the Buff Bad Guy episode.
I'll take it, son. It's like you missed it.
Yeah, maybe I do. Yeah. Well, you gotta drop it again if I show up.
Yes, we'll have a retelling of it. I mean, like, this is just for that guy right there. He requested. This was per his request, and then after he tells the joke, you'll be like, "No, I don't want to be involved in that."
This is for Tyler and everyone who came to see David Lynham.
This is for Tyler, all of David Lynham's friends, and any other pedos that might be here tonight. This one's for you, pal.
Let me just say, if I hear you starting that one again, I'm heading outside to smoke immediately.
Let me tell this joke that make Vince McMahon blush. Too far, pal. Goddamn.
That's some good shit.
Did you shit on her head, pal? And with that, we're going to go to our commercials that I forgot to run in the middle of the show like I'm supposed to, and then we're going to go. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you all next week, and I'll see you guys, at least two of you, next Saturday night at Atomic Johnny's. Thank you all for watching the Main Event Comedy Podcast. We appreciate it.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis. We're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
50% 1980 Saturday Morning Wrestling. 50% Mystery Science Theater 3000. 100% not as good as either one. The Outlaw Wrestling Federation presents OWF Worldwide Wrestling. Please join me, broadcast Bob Anderson, and my co-host, Whitey Jenkins, as we call some of the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest wrestling action from the nicest backyards, bingo halls, county fairs, and volunteer fire departments across these United States and around the world. Each and every Thursday, only on YouTube. For more, go to officialowf.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all. And all they ask is, Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.